How to master emotional detachment without losing your empathy. You're not too sensitive. You're just carrying everyone else's weight, and nobody asked if you were okay with that. At some point, something flipped. Other people's moods started becoming your moods. Their panic became your panic. Their spiral became your spiral, and you told yourself that's just what it means to care. It's not. And today I'm going to show you the difference. Let's start with the version of this idea that's completely wrong. Emotional detachment, in most people's minds, looks like this. Someone who doesn't flinch, someone who turns off their feelings the way you'd flip a light switch. Cold, untouchable, alone in a room that has no windows. That's the picture, and it's almost entirely backwards, because that person, the one who shut everything down, isn't free. They're just numb. And numb is not the same as strong. Numb means you stopped feeling the bad stuff. Sure, but you also stopped feeling the good stuff. You stopped feeling anything. That's not mastery. That's damage control that went too far. Marcus Aurelius didn't write about becoming a wall. He wrote about staying calm in the middle of a storm. Not by pretending the storm wasn't real, but by knowing it couldn't reach the thing he valued most. How he responded. There's a version of Stoicism people sell you that's essentially just emotional avoidance, with a Latin label. That's not what this is. What we're actually talking about today is something much harder and much more useful. It's learning to stay fully present in a difficult moment without being consumed by it. Think about the last time someone vented to you. Could have been a friend in a bad relationship, a co-worker who hates their manager, a family member who calls every Sunday with a new catastrophe. You sat there, and somewhere in the middle of it, their stress became your stress. You left that conversation feeling worse than when you started. And here's the strange part. You didn't actually solve anything. They went on with their day. You were the one who carried it home. That's what we call emotional contagion. It happens below the level of conscious thought. Your nervous system reads the room and adjusts, and if the room is panicking, you start panicking. If the room is grieving, you start grieving. It's not weakness, it's biology. Your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem isn't that you feel things. The problem is that you haven't learned to observe yourself feeling things before your body just takes over. Here's the tool. It's almost embarrassingly simple, but it works. 5 seconds, that's it. When something hits you, an angry text, a bad piece of news, someone in your face, you give yourself 5 seconds before you respond to it. Not to go blank, not to suppress what you're feeling, just to name it. I'm noticing that I feel anxious right now. I'm noticing that my chest is tight. I'm noticing that I want to fix this immediately. The moment you name what you're feeling, you shift from being inside the emotion to standing next to it. You become the observer rather than the participant. And that shift, that tiny shift, is where your power lives. The Stoics called it prosoche, attention to self, the idea that you can watch your own mind the way you'd watch a stranger on the street. You're not judging. You're not pushing anything away, you're just watching. Now let's talk about empathy. Because here's where people get confused. There are two kinds. The first one is called emotional empathy. That's when someone tells you they're drowning and you immediately start drowning with them. Your body mirrors their distress. It feels like closeness. It feels like connection. But a lot of the time, it's actually just shared suffering. You both end up underwater. The second kind is called cognitive empathy. That's when you understand what someone is going through. You can see their pain clearly, but you're standing on solid ground while you do it. You're not drowning, you're the one with the rope. And here's the thing most people don't realize. You're far more useful to someone you care about when you have cognitive empathy. When you're flooded, you can't think straight. When you're regulated, you can actually help. The most effective people in a crisis, the ER doctors, the therapists, the hostage negotiators. They're not emotionally shut down. They're just not swept away. Caring deeply and staying calm are not opposites. They coexist. But it takes practice. If this is landing for you, if you've ever felt like other people's chaos was slowly eroding something in you, then stay with me. What comes next is the part where it gets practical. Let's talk about boundaries, but not the way that word usually sounds. Most people here set boundaries and picture an awkward conversation where you say something like, "I need to communicate that this doesn't work for me." Nobody talks like that, and nobody hears it well either. Real boundaries aren't speeches, they're decisions. They're the moment you decide to stop answering your phone at 11 p.m. The moment you decide that someone venting at you for an hour while you have nothing to eat is not actually helping anyone. The moment you decide that saying, "I can't talk about this right now," is not abandonment, it's honesty. The non-confrontational version of this sounds something like, "I want to be here for you, and I can't do that well right now. Give me until tomorrow." That sentence protects you. It's also kind. Those two things can happen at the same time. There's also a skill that almost nobody talks about, which is learning to filter feedback in real time. Not every criticism aimed at you belongs to you. Some of it is someone else's story about themselves. Dressed up as feedback, the question you ask is simple. Is this true? Is this useful? If the answer to both is no, you let it pass. Not with drama, not with a response. You just let it pass. Epictetus, a man who was born a slave and became one of the most influential philosophers in Roman history, had one core idea that he came back to over and over. He drew a line between what is up to us and what isn't. Our judgments, our intentions, our effort up to us. Other people's actions, opinions, moods, not up to us, not even a little bit. The suffering comes from forgetting which side of the line you're standing on. So what does this look like on a Tuesday? Not in a philosophy book, in real life. It looks like starting your morning before your phone tells you what to feel. 10 minutes, no notifications, no email, no news. Just you deciding what your baseline is before the world starts voting on it. It looks like having what I'd call a decompression practice after high-stress interactions. When you leave a hard conversation, a difficult meeting, a tense call, a fight you didn't expect, your nervous system is still running the tape. Walking, breathing intentionally, writing down what you're carrying, and then putting the pen down. These aren't soft habits, they're maintenance, like changing the oil in a car. Skip it long enough and things break. It looks like knowing what you actually value, not in theory, but specifically. What does a day feel like when you've lived it well? What matters to you when nobody else is watching? Because if you don't know the answer to that, you'll keep letting other people's urgency substitute for your own direction. The chaos outside is not going anywhere. The algorithm is designed to make sure of that. Every notification, every news cycle, every group chat is optimized to grab your nervous system and hold it. You don't opt out of the world, but you can stop treating every input as an emergency. This is what emotional detachment actually is. Not a wall, not indifference, not the person who stopped caring. It's the person who cares clearly without losing themselves in the caring. It's the person who can sit with someone else's pain without becoming that pain, who can hear hard news without making a permanent decision in a temporary moment, who can be moved without being swept away. The Stoics didn't teach people how to feel less. They taught people how to feel without flinching and then act anyway. That's what this is. That's the whole thing. If that's something you want more of, subscribe. Next video is about why the most disciplined people you know are also the most rested. That one's going to surprise you. What the Stoics knew that we forgot. That's the entire gap between a reaction and a response. between the person who gets controlled by the moment and the person who controls themselves. Inside it, the Stoics built an entire philosophy around that gap, and most of us have never even noticed it exists. There's a moment that happens before every bad decision you've ever made. Before you sent the text you regretted, before you said the thing in the meeting that came out wrong, before you quit, snapped, checked out, or shut down, there was a moment, usually less than 5 seconds, where something else was possible, where you could have gone a different direction. But the window closed before you even knew it was open. That's not a character flaw. That's not weakness. That's just how the nervous system works when nobody has taught you to use it differently. Today that changes. Marcus Aurelius Meditations, Book 5. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. This isn't poetic. It's a man arguing with himself in writing. It's a 5-second negotiation between the part of him that wanted to stay comfortable and the part that had decided what kind of person he was going to be. He didn't trust himself to feel his way into the right decision. He thought his way into it deliberately every morning. That's the first thing to understand about the 5-second gap. The Stoics didn't treat it as something that happened automatically. They treated it as something you had to train, like a muscle, like a reflex that, left untrained, defaults to whatever the body wants in that moment. Comfort, avoidance, reaction. Epictetus called it prohairesis, the faculty of choice, the thing that makes you distinctly human. Not your feelings, not your circumstances, but your capacity to step back from a stimulus and decide how to meet it. Epictetus Discourses, Book 1. Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things. Read that again. Not the things, the opinions about the things. The story you tell yourself in the 5 seconds after something hits you. That's where the disturbance lives, and that's exactly where the intervention goes. The problem in 2025, and I mean this seriously, is that we've built an entire world designed to collapse that gap to zero. Every notification is engineered to produce an immediate emotional response and an immediate behavioral output. Open this, click this, reply now, react now. The phone doesn't give you 5 seconds. It's specifically designed not to, because a person with 5 seconds of space is a person who might not click. So what we're really talking about today is recovering something ancient that modern life has been very quietly, very efficiently stealing from you. Let's get specific, because this matters. When something happens to you, an angry email, a critical comment, a piece of news that lands badly, your amygdala fires within milliseconds. It's already running threat assessment before your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that thinks, has even been notified. Your body is already preparing a response. Cortisol is already moving. Your hands might already be typing. That's not philosophy. That's neuroscience. And for most of human history, it was exactly the right design. When you're being chased by something with teeth, you don't need 5 seconds to reflect. You need to move. The problem is that the same system that kept your ancestors alive is now firing when your boss sends a terse reply, when someone disagrees with you online, when a plan changes last minute. The threat assessment system doesn't know the difference between a predator and a passive-aggressive email. It treats both as emergencies, and so you respond like it's an emergency every time, all day long, until you're exhausted and you don't know why. Seneca, Letters to Lucilius, Letter XDI. There is nothing so wretched or foolish as to anticipate misfortune. What madness it is to be expecting evil before it arrives. Seneca was writing about anxiety, but the mechanism he's describing is exactly this: the nervous system running a worst-case simulation before the facts are even in. The 5-second pause isn't just about response. It's about refusing to let your body write the story before your mind has read it. So here's what actually happens when you learn to pause. In that 5 seconds, when you deliberately slow the sequence, the prefrontal cortex gets time to come online. The thinking brain catches up to the feeling brain, and suddenly you have access to something that wasn't available a moment ago: perspective, context, choice. The Stoics called this moment phantasia, the impression, the raw, unfiltered hit of a thing before you've decided what it means. And their entire framework was built around one skill: don't let the impression carry you. Examine it first. If you've ever looked back at a moment, hours later, days later, and thought, why did I react like that? This is the answer. You skipped the 5 seconds, and today you're going to learn to stop skipping it. Here's where this goes deeper than most people take it. The 5-second pause isn't one thing. It has 3 distinct layers, and most people only ever use the first one. The Stoics used all 3. And the difference between someone who merely pauses and someone who actually changes through pause is usually right here. The first layer is physical. It's the breath, the deliberate decision not to move for 5 seconds. This is the entry point, the circuit breaker. Before anything else, your body needs a signal that the emergency alarm is being reviewed, not automatically obeyed. 1 slow breath, 5 seconds of stillness. That's it. That's the door. The second layer is linguistic. It's naming what you're feeling, not performing a feeling, naming it. There's a documented phenomenon called affect labeling. When you put a word to an emotion, I'm feeling threatened, right? Now, this is triggering anxiety. Neural activity in the amygdala measurably decreases. The act of naming creates distance. It moves the emotion from something you are to something you have. That is not a small shift. That is everything. Marcus Aurelius Meditations, Book VI. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. He's describing the second layer. The estimate, the label, the story is not the event. And you can change the estimate, but only if you first stopped long enough to notice that you made one. The third layer is intentional. It's the question, what kind of person do I want to be in this moment? Not what do I feel, not what do I want. What have I already decided about who I am, and does this response reflect that? This is where the Stoics were doing something genuinely radical. They weren't asking people to suppress emotions. They were asking people to act from character rather than from impulse. Those are very different things. Suppression is pushing something down. Character is choosing what to let up. Epictetus didn't tell his students to stop feeling. He told them to stop letting their feelings write their actions without their permission. Let's be honest about when this fails, because it will fail. And knowing why is more useful than pretending it won't. The 5-second pause breaks down in 3 specific conditions. The first is chronic depletion. When you're sleep-deprived, hungry, or running on back-to-back stress for weeks, the prefrontal cortex is literally less active. The thinking brain is offline before the event even happens. In that state, you're not choosing your responses. You're defaulting to your lowest trained behavior. This is why Marcus Aurelius wrote about sleep, food, and exercise in the Meditations, not as wellness tips, as prerequisites for the kind of mind that can pause. The second is pattern triggers. There are specific people, tones of voice, phrases, or environments that have trained your nervous system to fire immediately because they've always been followed by something bad: old relationship dynamics, critical parents, past humiliation. When those patterns show up, the gap closes faster than usual. The solution isn't willpower, it's recognition. You have to know your triggers well enough to name them as they're happening. This is a pattern trigger, not a present reality. The third is identity threat. When someone challenges who you are, not just what you do, but who you are, The pause becomes nearly impossible without specific practice. The ego reads identity challenges as existential threats. The body responds accordingly. The work here is doing what Epictetus did, separating your identity from anything external. Your reputation is not you. Your title is not you. Other people's opinions are not you. The moment you externalize your identity, you've handed them the power to skip your pause for you. Epictetus, Enchiridion, Chapter 1. Of things. Some are in our power, and others are not. In our power, our opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, in a word, whatever is of our own doing. The dichotomy of control is not a productivity framework. It's a map for knowing where your identity should and shouldn't live. If it's outside your control, your identity cannot safely live there, because anything outside your control can take it from you. And when something takes your identity, it takes your pause. Philosophy without practice is just vocabulary. The Stoics knew this. They called it ascesis, training. Deliberate, daily, uncomfortable training of the mind, the way an athlete trains the body. So let's talk about what this looks like, Monday through Sunday. The morning is the most important window, not because of what happens in it, but because of what you decide before anything happens. The Stoics called this the morning meditation, a few minutes at the start of the day to anticipate difficulty and decide in advance how you'll meet it.